Live a World Cup season on Eurosport.
Hello and welcome everybody. The World Cup draw's done, opinions smothered all over your own perspective medias. We've come to Germany to listen to the thoughts of three World Cup legends, Pele, Jurgen Klinsmann and Sir Bobby Charlton. Now upcoming over the next 30 minutes you'll hear Sir Bobby talking through an interpreter in German, so you'll actually hear him being retranslated into English. So it sounds confusing, but it isn't. Now we're looking at pictures of Pele back in 1970. Now, talking to Pele, do you remember this great goal? A header by Pele.
Well, you never forget a moment like that. It was simply wonderful. It was simply wonderful.
And what about this? Bobby Charlton in action. Bobby, you won't forget the world champions. 1966, your greatest ever moment.
Yeah, I'll never forget that at all. It was the semi-final, but it was like a dream come true. Unbelievable.
And how about this one then, Jurgen? World Cup 90, your goal against the Netherlands. Well, there was certainly plenty of space on the pitch after the red card for Rudi Völler. That was a lot of fun, something really very special indeed. Well, allegedly it was one of the best games, or your best games ever, so they say. But I'd like to start by asking all of you, what's it like to be in a World Cup final? I imagine that it's quite simply a high that is never equalled.
Well, I think I should go first because I'm the oldest. When you're young, when you're a young player starting out on your career, you always have a dream. First of all, to turn professional, then to win a championship, but to actually go out onto the pitch and play for the prize of best team in the whole world, well, it's an absolutely incredible feeling. I was so proud, I really, really was.
The prize, which is the best in the world.
But if you do actually win the World Cup 3 times, then don't you think that you're almost dreaming, or is it something that becomes so normal that the feelings are normal, it's nothing really special?
I have some absolutely wonderful memories. First of all, my first World Cup when I was just 17, 18 years old. It was like a dream being in Sweden. In fact, I didn't really know what I was doing there. And then, of course, later, 1970, I was a much more experienced player. I had to take on a lot more responsibility. There were also some political problems in Brazil at that time. So the 1970 World Cup was a completely different experience for me. In fact, you could say that 58 and 70 were really like two extremes for me. Luckily, Brazil became world champions in 1970, and of course, that was absolutely brilliant. So I suppose, all in all, my first and my last World Cups were two completely different experiences for me.
Now, concerning their age, we've rather different generations here. I don't know how old you are, the viewers watching, but when you actually experienced your first World Cup, what were the feelings like? Mine was in 66, yours, Jurgen? Well, mine was 74. I was 10 years old when Germany became the world champions in our own country. And that means, you know, Bobby and Pele only from TV pictures afterwards, presumably. Well, yes, Sir Bobby Charlton, of course, through TV pictures from 66, very impressive pictures as well. That shot when he and Uwe Seeler met leaving the pitch after the final whistle, a scene you see over and over again on television. I think it is, as Pele said, at the very moment you can't grasp it. It's only later that you can really understand you've become a world champion. In my case, it actually happened after my playing career that I almost woke up one day and suddenly understood what I achieved. This status that Pele and Sir Bobby Charlton have, for example, well, it lasts forever. Nobody will ever take that away from you. Well, even if that Wembley goal, of course, well, it wasn't in. How do you see that, Pele?
Do you know what? I'm not going to talk about that goal. Brazil had already been knocked out before the final, so I'm actually not going to talk about that goal.
Bobby Charlton, was this a goal, or was it not a goal?
Every time I come to Germany, you know, I found myself having to answer that question, and it really surprises me. I appreciate that Germany had their favourite team there, Germany's favourite players, Overath, Uwe Seeler. They're, of course, a marvellous team, and to lose by a controversial goal isn't ideal. And I've said this to Franz Beckenbauer many, many times. Quite honestly, I said, if we hadn't scored that goal, you would have beaten us. And he said, well, probably not, actually. So, of course, it was disappointing for Germany. But in 1974, they got the chance to win the World Cup, and of course they did. So
Tor nicht
There you
gekommen wäre, dann hättet ihr uns geschlagen. Und sagte, wahrscheinlich doch nicht. Es ist aber eine sehr große Enttäuschung.
Well, we can feel here in Germany, a match like England, Germany, or whenever the big nations playing against each other, it always gets incredibly exciting, of course, to watch the build-up and the game itself. Now, after the break, we're going to be talking about the groups that have been drawn here in Leipzig. And the baffling thing is that in the round of the last 16, it could be England against Germany again. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
In snooker, success is 90% in the mind. At the elite level, everyone is exceptionally talented. The key is the mental approach. The ones who handle the pressure best are the ones who shine. Master the stress, master the mind, master the game. World Snooker, all season long, live on Eurosport.
Flowers for her mother, €11. A little something for her dad, €15. New shirt to look your best, €62. Discovering her father's one of the lads, priceless. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard. Accepted everywhere, from flowers to football jerseys.
Eurosport.com. Get all the football news from around the globe, live score and text commentaries, and up-to-the-minute results from 18 national championships. If it's live, it's at Eurosport.com.
The UEFA Cup football and dreams of European glory hang in the balance. It's the last day of the group phase. 16 teams are about to exit. The survivors go to the knockout stage, along with 8 sides from the Champions League. Incentive enough? Of the UEFA Cup, Wednesday and Thursday at 2300 hours on Eurosport.
Welcome back, everybody. Second round of the MasterCard debate in the Deutsche Bahn Lounge in Leipzig. We are now going to focus on the different groups. Now, let's start with the German group, Jurgen Klinsmann. Result of the draw is certainly that we can stay relaxed, of course. Well, I guess we would have stayed relaxed anyway, even if we'd got the group of death. Of course, we are the favourites in this group. We've got home advantage. The World Cup takes place, of course, in Germany, and we want to become the first in our group in order to continue playing in the same stadiums where we'll play our group games. We face hard opponents, amongst them the rather unknown team from Costa Rica in the opening match. There's always a lot of tension in the opening match of a World Cup. You know, you try to get a good start into the tournament, and there have been many, many big surprises in the opening matches of nearly every World Cup finals. Ecuador, third in the South American qualification behind Brazil and Argentina. In fact, they even beat Brazil and Argentina. Well, how would you rate Ecuador?
Well, I think Ecuador could spring some sort of surprise in the World Cup. They're a good team. They beat Brazil, as Jurgen's just said, but you have to take into account that they play their home matches at very high altitude. But still, they do play very well, and they could well be a surprise package, because after all, if you've beaten Brazil, you must be a good team. As for Germany, well, they have a certain responsibility playing at home, of course, especially in the opening game, and they'll have to be well prepared.
Then, of course, there is Poland, the second European team in the group. Now, don't you think they could also qualify for the next round? A strong team, could get quite exciting in the final game.
Poland have always produced big, strong, tough players, but I think they'll have to have real desire. And if they do, they'll perform well, and they'll be very difficult to play against. England know exactly what it's like to play against Poland. Goodness knows, we've drawn them so many times. In fact, I think this is the first time that we won't be in the same group as them. They're tough, they can run, they're disciplined, and they have a very solid defence. Maybe what they don't have is that cutting edge, someone who can really change the game and stick the ball in the back of the net. That's what they don't have.
Well, we might also miss someone who can create a chance or two in the German team, but we're not going to go into too much detail here about that. We've still half a year ahead of us. So, Jurgen, what do you think about the Poles? Rather strong team. They scored 27 goals in their qualification matches, so they have clear ability. I respect them. We simply have to try and play our game and our style and dominate the matches, particularly as we're playing in front of a home crowd. And as Bobby Charlton said, we'll have to be a little bit better than the opponents. We have to go beyond this so-called cutting edge, especially in a great tournament like a World Cup final. We simply have to perform to our maximum ability all of the time, in every minute of every game. Well, against the likes of Smolarek and Krzyznovac, the two Bundesliga players, how is this going to be possible? We've also three players with Polish ancestors: Lukas Podolski, Miroslav Klose, Lukas Sinkweitz. So that gives this match some additional thrill. It's nice for those three with this special relationship to Poland. Well, you could say it's almost like an internal Polish duel. If we look at Group B, we can see England there. Is it rather interesting, Bobby, that Germany could meet England right after this group stage? I mean, it's amazing.
Well, it's a possibility.
Well, it is a possibility, I suppose, yes, but I don't think England will be thinking about that just now. We'd just be happy to qualify for the next stage, and that in itself won't be easy, of course. We've got Sweden, and we've always been really poor against the Swedes. They're really strong defensively, and they have this fantastic striker in Ibrahimovic, who plays for Juventus, of course. He's the most popular player in Sweden at the moment. We've also got Trinidad and Tobago with Dwight York, one of our former players at Manchester United, who played such a great part for us in the Champions League, was a huge player for us, but of course he's not as young as he was. Paraguay, well, we know all about them. You have to take it for granted that any team that qualifies from South America has got good technique and is well disciplined. England played them last, I think, back in 1968 in Mexico, and we won easily. So I really do think that we can qualify. I'm pretty confident that England will be in good shape and that we'll go through.
Well, back to the German group. Germany enjoyed playing against Paraguay in 2002 in the round of 16. Are they now stronger than they were 4 years ago?
Paraguay have always had good players. Paraguay, Argentina, Brazil, they're all about the same level. But personally, you know, I think this is a good time for England. They're a good team, an improving team, and they shouldn't have any problems in this group. I expect them to pass that particular test comfortably enough. I really do.
So then it looks like it would be England and Sweden then to proceed.
Yeah, I can't see any problems for England.
It's the World Cup.
Yeah, England and Sweden should both qualify, but it's the World Cup, and anything can happen.
And who would Germany prefer? Even if a lot can happen in a World Cup, as we know, both teams pretty tough after the group stage. Anything is possible, as everybody has said. Small things can make the difference. We've just got to make sure we're doing everything we can to avoid unnecessary slip-ups. So then let's look at Brazil's group, Group F. It's not going to be straightforward for Brazil with Croatia, Australia, Japan. Well, you should qualify okay, but are you satisfied with the draw?
If Brazil carry on playing as they are at the moment, I think we'll have a good chance of going through. But let's be clear, this is not an easy group. If you look at the other teams, it looks like an average group, and of course, Brazil should qualify. But it's not an easy group. Croatia, they're a good team. There's also Japan. So, you know, it's not going to be easy. Brazil are really lucky. You know, in terms of what I was saying before about having that decisive cutting edge, they've got Ronaldinho, Kaká, Adriano, all three fantastic strikers. I can't see Brazil not scoring. They're just so blessed with great players, and that's the most important thing. As far as I'm concerned, England will have that cutting edge as well. We can score too, of course, but for me, Brazil, well, they'll be the clear favourites for next year, and I can't see anybody getting past them at all. Brazil, for me, clear favourites. Pereira was wary of playing against the the Czech Republic, you know. He didn't want to face the Czechs, and so I guess we're lucky that the Czech Republic isn't in our group this time round. So I guess I did a pretty good job in that respect. Everything's fine.
Well, let's take a look at that Brazilian midfield. I mean, they are so strong. I mean, you might just say, listen, everybody, let's just put them directly into the final. Why not? Well, of course, it would be absolutely fantastic to see them play. Everybody loves to see the Brazilians. And the special thing is that they've never, ever had enough. This is the players. They're always hungry for more. Ronaldinho never wants to stop playing. If you see him play for Barcelona, even when the game is finished, he'd prefer just to play on. It's just, well, what can I say? Incredible to watch. Well, we're talking once again about the quality of this squad, and they are just, I think, at the moment, the world's #1. I think they stand head and shoulders above anything else that is in existence. But in Germany, we've had this big discussion about Kahn or Lehmann in goal. In Brazil, there's also been this discussion about their goalkeeper. But I've said it before, you don't actually need a goalkeeper in Brazil, do you? Your midfield's so strong as well as your strikers. It doesn't matter who you have in goal.
Yeah,
I could be in your goal.
Yeah, right. Sorry, I think what you'll find now is that every coach will be focusing now on Brazil. How to stop them, how to beat them, how to stop them scoring a goal. And if you don't do that, it's simple. You're just going to get beaten. They, of course, are the favourites. There's absolutely no question about that at all. I'm not saying that they're unbeatable. Any team, of course, can be beaten. But if you can find their weakness, just find their Achilles, then you can beat them. But as I've already said, Brazil is just so incredibly blessed with all those brilliant, brilliant players. Well, the goalkeeper issue isn't just a problem specific to Brazil. It's a problem in Argentina as well. They've had problems finding the right keeper. Of course, we've got a great midfield and we've got brilliant strikers. But Brazil has also got some very good goalkeepers. Just think of Dida. He's a very, very good goalkeeper.
Well, however, it looks as though all three teams will probably qualify for the next round. I think we can probably agree on that. But if we look at Group E, for example, this group is, well, what can we say? It's the group of death, isn't it? I'm certainly glad that Germany is not in Group E. Jurgen, what do you think? He's saying yes, of course, we can be extremely happy about that. Italy, Ghana, USA, and the Czech Republic. It's an exceptional group, a killer group. But that's the special thing about the World Cup. There will be matches that you're looking forward to today. And in this group, you really can't say at the moment what is going to happen. It's so unpredictable. Have they improved at all? Well, the USA have qualified for the World Cup for the 5th time in a row. They've constantly improved. It's no surprise that they're now #8 in the world. They have been in the top 10 for a while, and still people generally underestimate them. If we look a few years back to the World Cup of 2002, when Germany played the US in the quarter-finals, the USA had a better team, no doubt about it at the time. The USA are improving, and they'll face very good teams, of course, with Italy and the Czech Republic. But the way we know the Americans, they will arrive here in Germany with a lot of self-confidence. They won't hide. They'll say, we believe in our chance, and we're going to go out there and take it. But it will be a tough group. Well, the Brazilians will certainly hope the Americans will get through instead of the Czechs, as Brazil seem to be afraid of the Czechs, as we heard a few minutes ago. We'll check out the remainder of the groups right after this break.
Take off with the men who reach for the sky. The whole competition is live on Eurosport as the high flyers of winter sport all try to outdistance the brilliant Janni Ahonen. The Ski Jumping World Cup from Engelberg, Saturday at 13:30 and Sunday at 13:45, live on Eurosport.
Flowers for her mother, €11. A little something for her dad, €15. New shirts to look your best, €62. Discovering her father's one of the lads, priceless, There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard. Accepted everywhere, from flowers to football jerseys.
Eurosport.com. Get all the football news from around the globe, live score and text commentaries, and up-to-the-minute results from 18 national championships. If it's live, it's at Eurosport.com.
Eurogoals, Monday on Eurosport, the famous weekly football magazine. The show that delivers the weekend action from some of the major European leagues like the Liga, Bundesliga or French League. The football fans' essential European guide back on the air. Eurogoals, Monday at 17:30 on Eurosport.
With Continental tires, engineered in Germany.
Welcome back then to our debate. We were just talking about the Czech Republic as they're in this amazing group with Italy, so difficult. The Brazilian team don't like the Czechs. Why not?
Well, it's not that we don't like them. They're a good team. They play good football. They are, in fact, one of the best teams in the world. They're a good team, well organised, maybe the best in Europe. And I'm not really sure that we'd want to meet them in the quarter-finals. But my point is, you have to respect every single team. That's very important. Every team wants to be world champions. Every team would like to reach the final, of course. And if you want to reach the final, you'll have to show respect towards all the other teams. So, you know, I think we need to be fair here. But it's not that we don't like the Czechs. That's not true.
Well, you can also see, too, that many of the Czech Republic players won't actually play again after this World Cup finals. Among the Czechs, a lot of older players. And this will be their last big tournament. To be a swan song for them. Last opportunity to achieve something really big.
Well, over the years, the Czech Republic have progressed very well. That's absolutely sure. I do accept that. But we also have to say they have a really tough group. And I think Ghana may well surprise a few people as well. After all, any team capable of eliminating Nigeria and South Africa from their qualifying group has to be taken seriously. And Ghana as well, we might add, have got incredible technique. So it means they're going to have to give everything. It is a very, very tough group. And of course, the other thing is that the United States, they're also in there. They're a very tough side to break down, and they're a very fit side as well.
Well, it is going to be inevitable, of course, that big names will be eliminated in this group. Let's move on to our next group with Argentina, the Ivory Coast, Serbia, Montenegro, and the Netherlands, of course, who the Germans were afraid of. Jurgen. Absolutely right. We're very happy that we haven't got the Netherlands in our group. This group is similar to the group we were talking about before. The strength of the teams very evident, very similar. Anything could happen. Of course, the highlights will be, of course, Argentina against the Netherlands. This will be talked about, well, the most in this group. Could be the decisive game. And, of course, you've only got to look back to 1978. Those pictures will be played and replayed again. Both are now very strong teams. So don't ignore the other two teams in this group. It really rocks. So are the Argentines in this World Cup stronger than they were in previous World Cups?
Well, I think even back in 2002, in the World Cup there, the Argentina were one of the best teams in the competition, and at the time had one of the best teams in the world. But as we all know, they were knocked out in the group stage, as were indeed France, the best European team at that time. They were, in fact, the reigning European champions, and they still didn't go through. Make no mistake, this is a very, very difficult group. Argentina will have to be bang on the ball, and there'll be a lot of pressure on them to make sure that they don't fail again.
Well, the Netherlands are always a team that are among the favourites. Last time, though, they won something big back in the 80s, European Championships it was, and well, guess where that was as well.
They have a really good coaching system, and you have to admire their level of consistency. Absolutely superb. And they, as always, will be very difficult to play against. They're a really tough outfit, but I think they'll go through. And then, of course, we have the Ivory Coast. Nobody imagined they would qualify in a million years. Nobody had ever really heard of them before, apart perhaps from Drogba, the striker. And, of course, he's going to cause defences all sorts of problems with his pace and his height and his brute strength. I wouldn't write them off by any means. But I wouldn't automatically say that Holland will go through either. They're going to have to work really, really hard. So there's no guarantees in this group at all.
Well, it's something that's very evident these days as well, particularly the example, let's say, of Drogba, the individual class of one player that can actually decide a match. We've experienced it in the Champions League. The slightly better individual makes the decisive difference. Well, that's right. There are no big differences between the teams any longer. All teams in this World Cup finals are tactically very astute, very disciplined. They will all be physically fit when they're here, so the difference will be made by the individual players who are able to perform at their best to reach a peak in the big tournament. Brazil, of course, is the exception. They're always good. Well, Bobby Charlton said it before and mentioned it quite rightly. Didier Drogba, who can score a very small chances. Only recently Italy drew 1-1 in Geneva with the Ivory Coast, and Drogba scored an absolutely wonderful goal. You need to be aware of that, very aware. Additionally, nearly all African players play in Europe. They've top European level of coaching and knowledge. They know the rhythm of European games. So there are no big differences for these players any longer. They also have the sort of experience the Africans didn't have at former World Cups. They know what it's all about today. It's going to be very, very close indeed. Well, let's quickly turn to the other groups then we haven't covered so far. First, Group D, Mexico, Iran, Angola, Portugal. There, Portugal, well, they really should qualify for the next round. One would have thought without too much problem at all. Pele, what do you think?
Well, yeah, you're right. Pele, Portugal have a very strong side. By the way, I must say there'll be 4 Brazilian coaches at the World Cup: Pereira, Scolari, Zico, and the guy in charge of Costa Rica. So worth pointing out, Brazil has got some good coaches as well as some good players.
Well, Portugal actually deserved to go far. They would have deserved to become European champions in 2004 for the great atmosphere and the tournament as a whole. In Group G, we have France, Switzerland, South Korea and Togo. And finally, when we look ahead to Group H, there'll be Spain and the Ukraine, of course, who've never been there before, Tunisia and Saudi Arabia. So here maybe we should focus on the Ukraine. Similarly to Drogba and the Ivory Coast, they have Shevchenko. Well, I saw the Ukraine in their qualification matches very often indeed, and I was really glad not to have them in our group. They've developed very fast over the past few years. Not just Shevchenko is responsible for that either. There are quite a few other players who are playing at a very good international level. Very disciplined, very quick on the counter-attack. We played Russia ahead of the Confederations Cup last year. Ukraine are stronger than Russia, so you don't really want to face them in the knockout stages of this competition. So who'll be world champion? I'm not thinking maybe an actual name here, but rather like, will it be a team with a good system, or will it be a team that has got great individual players?
I think it's going to be defensive football that will be dominating. People are going to be thinking, look, if Greece can become European champions with their defensive style, why can't we do it as well? But I think if that is the case, if the football is defensive, then I think the game's in danger, especially when you think about that cutting-edge point that I was talking about just before.
Well, Sir Bobby says England will be world champion, or potentially that will be about time, maybe against Brazil in the final. How great would that be?
It could be Brazil against Germany, some kind of revenge for what happened back in 2002. Who knows?
Well, some harmony then here tonight. But this time Germany wins. Is that going to be the way it pans out, Jurgen? Nothing against it, of course. I truly think the great players will finally make the difference. You could always discuss different systems, different tactical varieties and discipline. You can talk about defensive style of teams, about being compact at the back, not allowing any chance of the opponents, and so on and so on. But at the end of the day, the team with the best individual players, the ones that can add the cutting edge, they will be the ones that win. Right, we've heard various opinions here, putting England in a final against Brazil possibly. Germany then will beat Brazil in a final, could be a possibility there. There can be no better ending to our MasterCard debate then tonight. But please at least reach the semi-finals, guys, and we can play once again.
Don't forget, we won it 4 times.
Live a World Cup season on Eurosport.